Now that you have your wireless network all set up, let's talk about troubleshooting, or what do we do when it doesn't quite work the way we expect it to. Now, the first step in troubleshooting or solving any problem is to know exactly what our problem is. And there are three main areas that you might be having a problem if you can't get on the internet. The three areas would be with the internet itself, or your ISP, Internet Service Provider. The problem could be with your modem or router, or finally, the problem could be with your individual computer. It's important to know exactly where the problem is, because if you spend hours on hold with your internet service provider when actually it's your computer that has a problem, that wouldn't be very fulfilling. Or vice versa, you might be racking your brains trying to figure out what's wrong when the whole town is down with their internet. Well, the first thing that works, probably 80% of the time when you're dealing with electronics and computers, is to simply unplug everything and then plug it back in. So that would go for our power switch here. That would also go for coaxial cables. Anything that's plugged in, we want to unplug everything. The reason why this works is because between the plug and the equipment, there's a buildup of static. And just the act of unplugging it will release the static, and then just wait 5 seconds and plug it back in. The other thing that unplugging your equipment will do is it will cause it to reset. Even just hitting your on-off switch doesn't really do it. You want to physically remove the plug. If you do end up calling your internet service provider, I can pretty much guarantee you, when you finally get a live person on the phone, the first thing they're going to ask you is, did you unplug everything and plug it back in? So if we know this is going to work 80% of the time, we're going to save ourselves the trouble. When you do plug things back in, the last thing you want to plug in is always the power source. So you can go one plug at a time through everything, but the last step is to plug in your power source. You don't want to plug in your power source too soon before all the other connections are made. So how do we know exactly where our problem is if the unplug method didn't work? Well, first of all, with our router or our modem, you're going to be checking the lights and making sure your lights are lit. Now, unfortunately, I'm not actually plugged into the internet, so most of my lights are not lit. I can tell that I have power, but I don't have internet access right now. Your modem or router, when you saw it on a good day, would have a series of lights lit up. And when you call your internet service provider for help, the first thing they ask after, did you unplug it, is what lights are lit on the modem? What lights are lit on the router? So we've unplugged everything. We're checking to make sure our lights are good, so we know whether or not the problem is with the internet. Now, is the problem with the wireless signal going to our computer? Well, the best way to figure out that is to get rid of a wireless signal. We're going to take an Ethernet cable, plug it right into our modem or our router, direct, and the other end of the Ethernet cable right into our computer. If we do that, there is no wireless signal. We have a direct connection from the computer to the internet. So then we could tell, is the wireless the problem or is the computer the problem? If you still have a problem, I would recommend trying a second computer just to make sure the problem is not with your immediate computer. So again, our basic troubleshooting, first, unplug everything. When you plug it back in, please plug in the power plug last. And finally, to check your signal, the best thing to do is to skip the wireless. Plug it in directly with an Ethernet cable. Now, on your computer itself, you'll see all the wireless networks that are available in a given area. I got this just by clicking on one of the icons at the bottom, and I can see the names of all the networks I can log on to. If one of the networks was mine, I would simply use my mouse and click on it. These are some other networks that we're catching here that may or may not be encrypted, so I can't log on. If I wanted to log on with a cell phone, I would do a very similar thing. Here on my cell phone, I'm just going to go to Settings, and all of the different phones will have a Settings button, and you'll see a Wi-Fi section. You'll go to the Wi-Fi section, and it'll list all of the different networks that are available. There's one, and I could log on to it right there. So if I'm having difficulty, I make sure that my internet service provider is up. I make sure that my router and my modem have all the lights lit. I hardwire a computer in to make sure the problem is not with the wireless. And finally, log on to a network. You should be moving in no time.